Nothing much, chilling. How about you?
Same.
Same. How's your Sundays look? Mostly programming, or do you train people too on that day?
Nah, usually Sundays is for me. Sundays
Okay,
usually
okay.
any program I gotta do, any research or reading that I want to get in. Most of the time it's me spending time with this guy.
What type of dog is he?
He's an American pit.
Okay, okay. Yeah, I got mine is a pit and a Canario mix. I don't know if you heard of those ones.
Who?
Pressa Canario. They're from the.
Oh yeah, they're big.
Yeah. So she's like a mix of that and pit bull. Yeah, but she's only like 60 something. She's a little midget, all muscle, you know.
He's about 45. So usually Sundays, I'll maybe go for a run. Usually I'll take him, go longboarding, and he likes running on the boardwalk with it. But usually because I'm away like all week long, I'm never home. So Sundays, I try to give as much time as I can to him, and then what I got going on, move it around.
So just start off by telling everybody who you are and what you do.
Yeah, my name is Anne-marie Saccurato. I'm a couple of things. I am a strength conditioning coach and performance specialist. I've been in the industry for about 28 years. Just finally got my LLC done for my own brand, which is RYSE Performance. RYSE basically stands for Realize Your Strength Every Day, spelled RYSE. Raise your standards every day, reignite your soul every day. It's basically 3 ideals that will put you in the right positioning to create the transitions you want in life and just live that savage life, that solid life, going after what you want, whether you're an elite level athlete or general population just trying to achieve higher levels of just life, living, performance. Work with Phil DeRue, moved down here about 4 years ago, and somebody, good friend of mine that I ran into was like, you got to meet Phil, and we met, hit it off, and been with him, and it's just a blast. Connection is just awesome between me and him. Absolutely love being around him. So work alongside him at Drew Strong Performance in Deerfield. Outside of that, I am former 3-time WBC Lightweight World Champion, professional boxer. Entered into the International Women's Boxing Hall of Fame. Ranked top 10 pound for pound in the world with one of the biggest fights and biggest KOs in women's boxing. Outside of that, I'm also I work and specialize with working with combat athletes and tactical athletes, but I'm also a tactical athlete myself, involved in tactical protection. So, and then outside of that, I do some speaking. There's some speaking engagements, mental strength, emotional toughness. I'm an assistant instructor for a group called The Program, which is all basically compromised and was developed by a bunch of former Marine, just absolute superheroes. And we work with a lot of division, majority is Division I, colleges, professional sports teams, and corporations, and helping develop military mindset and leadership skills.
Oh, wow. Okay. And then did you serve as well? Is that how you got into that?
I did not. I'm just honored to be part of that. I give them so much respect. And everybody, it's funny because everybody thinks either I'm a cop, I'm military, I'm a Marine, I'm everybody. I followed into today by a woman that swore I was a Marine. She going up and like, I'm not a Marine. I was like, I'm sorry.
She's like, you hiding it. You're like you a spy or something.
Like this, I don't know. Obviously, something was a little off with her, but I mean, I was walking Simba the other day, and a guy was walking alongside me, and he comes up to me and he's like, "Are you part of this organization?" I don't remember the name of it, because I'd love to get. And I said, "No." I was like, well, "What organization is that?" He goes, "Oh, they work with military vets, and they provide them with a lot of different services." And he's going on and on. And I'm like, "Sir," I was like, "I'm not a veteran." He's like, "You're not?" Oh, people for their my service. I'm like, "I'm not," but my brother. He's the real hero. My brother was first responder at 9/11.
Oh, wow.
So Fire Department. He's U.S. Coast Guard, U.S. Marshal, anti-terrorist task force, National Guard, and Air National Guard, and now he's working with Sheriff's Department. So he's the real one. I just pretend to be.
Now, like, oh, sorry, were you gonna say something?
No. I was just saying I train.
I was just gonna say, did you play any sports growing up, or did you start right into boxing and that was the start of everything?
Never thought I'd box in my life. I'm not even honest with you. I'll watch the fights just because I'm an athlete and I'm involved. I'll watch the fights more now because what I do in terms of working with athletes and the population that I work with, boxers, UFC, bare knuckle, and I'm much more about that now. But I never really, it was never a thing. I never said I was gonna box or fight a day in my life. I grew up playing basketball, volleyball, softball. Basketball, volleyball, my entire life. Was recruited to play by several Division I schools coming out of high school, and that's all that I was about. How boxing came into place is everybody has a story, and my story's a little bit different. I was, excuse me, I'm gonna let this beast out for a second. My God. Yeah, I was coming back. Okay, let me backtrack a little bit. So my senior year of high school, I had this feeling that I was going to be in a life-threatening situation, but that I was going to overcome it. I don't know where that feeling came from, but it was in me. And that summer, I was on a team, so New York State. Well, you might be familiar. You're familiar with the Empire State Games?
No.
The New York State divides itself up basically like the Olympics into regions and has all the top athletes get together and compete. Basketball, volleyball, whatever.
Okay.
I was competing on the volleyball team going up to represent Hudson Valley. And we were going up to Syracuse University. And my mother had dropped me off at the venue where we were meeting to take the buses up. And it was 3 days after my 18th birthday. And I look at her and, wave goodbye. And this feeling goes through me. What if I never see her again? Now, you don't think that, as an 18-year-old,
right.
Not, but it's legit what I felt. And, had the tournament, was coming back from the tournament, didn't go onto the bus. A couple of my teammates had cars that drove up, whatever. Long story short, I ended up going home in a teammate's car, my captain, and it was myself, another teammate, and the captain, and she was driving. I fell asleep in the back seat of the car, and it was pouring. It was like a monsoon. The rain was extremely heavy that day. So, when you have a dream and you feel like your body spins out of control, I remember that, but it was the car 3. We hydroplaned across Route 7 Monticello. We wrapped a pole for the overhead side of the signs on the overhead signs on the opposite side of the highway. And on impact, so the car wraps around, my legs took the impact and shot me through the back window of the car. They found me hanging out the car halfway unconscious.
Oh my God.
Life to get me out. I don't remember anything from the scene except for the fact that I was on a board and I was telling the medics that I couldn't breathe and asking if I was going to die. And that's all. So they were going to fly me down to Westchester Medical Center, which is a level 1 facility. And the weather was too severe, so they put me on advanced life support, drove me to a local hospital, drove me down on advanced life support to Westchester Medical Center, did somewhere between 14 and 18 hours of surgery. They had my family in a private room, ready to tell them I wasn't going to make it because medically speaking, they said I shouldn't have made it through the night. And I woke up. The first that I said was, "What about sports?" After all that I said, the doctors looked at me and said that I was never going to play sports again and would probably never walk. But they didn't know if I was going to walk or walk normal again because of the injuries that I sustained. I told them, they had no idea what was inside me. I don't remember else. This is the only conversation that I remember at that time. I was on all kinds of drugs and incredible pain. I was in the hospital from August 5th of 95 till the week before Halloween. Week before Halloween to week before Thanksgiving, I was in rehab. I broke my left fib tib, had a metal rod put in my tibia. From where the break was, there was also glass that severed my leg open. The glass and the break were the same place. They severed the nerve. So I had no feeling in my leg. That's one of the reasons why they didn't know about walking. They didn't know if that nerve was going to regenerate. I'm still missing feeling in my left foot. I broke my right femur. I have a metal rod in my femur. I broke my right pelvic bone. I had my leg in traction for about 6 to 8 weeks. I broke all the ribs on my right side. I punctured my right lung. I shattered my right arm in 5 places. I have a metal plate holding my ulna together. And then I tore apart my chin in several places. So it was a battle, but every step of the way, I knew it happened. I knew A, it happened to me for a reason. I knew B, I was going to be fine, didn't care, it didn't worry me at all. And C, I had one limb that was free and did whatever I could. I had bands just to make that one arm as mobile as possible. Boxing, so fast forward to what the original question was. Boxing came into my life after that. So I was in the hospital for several months. When I got first day that I came home, the first thing I did was go out the door, mom, see you later, and went for a run. And next day I was back in the gym. I started just to build up. I was going to go play for Seton Hall University the following year. Obviously, I didn't go that year. I just knew I needed to get back into shape and conditioning. So I was back in the gym, back training. And then I started taking boxing classes just for added work. And I got introduced to somebody that he was an instructor for Jeet Kune Do, which is Bruce Lee created, right? Started studying that. Went back to college, came back down. When I came back, I dabbled. Ran into a friend of mine actually sent me something about the New York Golden Gloves, and I had maybe 6 weeks of hitting, not even, maybe 4 weeks of hitting a bag. I was like, all right, I'll do it. Literally how this happened. And New York Golden Gloves with this guy that told me he was this boxing coach that was completely full of shit. He had a boxing gym. He had all these pictures with people, but he was terrible. I went to the gym and he didn't care. Like, even at that time, like, I'm not that type of person, but like, women boxing nobody gave a shit. And he I went into the gym that day and he was like, all right, 10 rounds on the bag. Wait, what? And he left. And he left me in the 10 rounds by myself. Okay, so now first fight is in the Golden Gloves. It's against national champion. She's 23-0. I have no fight. So I fight her. Then third round of that fight, she breaks my nose. Third round fight, 30 seconds left, she breaks my nose. They stop the fight. That night, there's a woman at the fights, and that wasn't the entrance to the Golden Gloves. There was a small fight before that. I don't remember what it was for, but it had some type of time for the gloves. Regardless, it all ties in together in a second. So that night, this woman is there, and like, listen, I represent the team going to the U.S. Nationals, representing New York. We have an extra ticket. Would you like to go? Meanwhile, I have a broken nose and I have 2 black eyes. Okay, come out of women's amateur boxing, Olympic style boxing is all about safety. So I had no business going on this plane to the U.S. Nor did I have any business at that time even representing anybody in a boxing ring. But 2 days later, I'm on a plane to Midland, Texas, for U.S. Nationals. I fight. Definitely was a boxing fight my way into the finals of the U.S. Nationals. I fight this girl who's the national champion in the finals. So now I'm fighting her twice in 2 weeks. Okay. Back to New York, I had a bye into the finals of the Golden Gloves. Fight her in the finals. So now 3 times in 3 weeks, I'm fighting the champion. That was into boxing. Came back the following year, won the New York Gloves, won the national gloves, turns pro. and had my first title fight, maybe I think it was about 6 fights into my pro career. Got off the title fight because girl got injured. I jumped in. I ended up having, here's the other thing. I always said I wanted to have a documentary crew follow me for all that I was going through to try to make this dream reality, and everything I was doing in terms of even my strength conditioning and, you know, the dream there and the dream of boxing, and just being what my mission has been since I was very young, to inspire, empower, and impact as many lives as possible. I've always known, sidebar, I've always known my life was meant for that. That's what's entire life and what I'm doing now. That's always been my mission. I was blessed to know that from a child. But so with that in mind, I said, you know, and the documentary, not just to be of myself, but of what female boxers were going through, that reality, right? Well, I signed this fight, the contract for this fight, and within that week, I think it might have even been like 2 days later, PBS contacts me. They're like, we'd like to do a documentary on you. They didn't even know about the fight. So now they're following me into the title fight, and I win my belt from, I beat a girl's name is Jelena Mergenovitz in Canada. It's the whole documentary is done on it, followed me up to all the weeks preceding that. And the woman who is commentating the fight is the woman that I beat, or that I fought in those 3 fights coming up in my career. And now she's the commentator for first title fight. So it's just, I know it's a long story, but I mean, that's part of why I do what I do. That's part of, you know, I believe in everything happens in your life for a reason. When you put things out there into this world, which I did from a very young age, all these pieces of the puzzle came together to give me leverage in this world to be able to get my mission and my story out there as a strength coach, as an athlete, now working with tactical population. So it's very important, you know.
Now you did, you told me you played, what was it, volleyball, basketball? There was one other? I can't.
But softball, I did just to kind of play to stay active.
Basketball. Okay, right.
Like I love playing, but it wasn't like a love, right? I mean, whatever, but basketball, volleyball growing up, like those two was my heart. Like basketball growing up was,
because I played in college for basketball, and I've always wanted to do fighting like way more. Like when I was younger, I did martial arts and I was doing kung fu, and then we moved to New York. And I don't know if you know New York, like New York's like their best or their biggest martial arts are always karate, and I've always hated karate, so I stopped. But it's always something I miss. So like I know that like I'm doing powerlifting now, and I'm like, well, I want to eventually start getting into kickboxing or something like that. I don't want to do powerlifting full time. I want to do more athletic stuff. But how was that transition to getting punched in the mouth versus like you get an elbow every once in a while in volleyball? There's no contact. Like how was that transition? Because I'd imagine it's rough, you know.
Listen, you know, it's the mindset, right? So, I mean, no, I've never gotten in a fight in my life. Definitely, you know, basketball, definitely, you take your shots.
You're right, you take it.
Definitely taking my shots. Definitely giving them too. But that's why, you know, I'll say, and I said it in interviews many times, I'm not a boxer. And anybody can be a boxer. Not everybody has that dog inside them that's a fighter. That's, you understand, that's separation. And all respect, and that's not to take away respect from anything or love from it. Boxing, BJJ, wrestling, whatever combat you're involved in, it's a skill. So you can learn it and you can be very technically effective. But do you have what it is to compete? And not just against who is in that ring cage on the mat with you, but within yourself. You know, because that, look, you step in the cage, that door closes, you step on the mat, you step in the ring, that's your truth right there in that element of who you are, what you're about, and what you're going to do in scenarios and in life. It's a lot about yourself and how you're going to not just react, but proact to a situation and plan an attack and strategize. And then when you are back against the ropes or you do get dropped, right, now what? Now, so what now? What are you going to do about the situation and how are you going to come back that much harder? And, it's such to say, it's mindset. It doesn't matter, like for me, it doesn't matter what competitive nature, whatever sport or element I should say I'm involved in, I'm coming for you.
Mhm.
I'm more for myself because I'm here to prove to myself that I'm capable of absolutely anything. And if I fail the first time, I'm going to come back from what I've learned. And it's the same way life, but it's the same way in lifting too. Like I talk about this a lot, training, lifting, life, it's all the same. It's all parallels each other, right? When you're lifting, right, we want to push ourselves to failure, right? Whether it's going on, max reps, we're doing AMRAP, we're doing, what's your PR? Like us going to failure is like, all right, cool, game on, let's go. In life, you reach failure in something like, damn, I failed. Now, right?
Mm-hmm.
So you want the mindset of what you're doing in the gym, what you're doing on the bar, under the bar, into life, and that's the same transitions into combat, right? With tension and stress, we want more tension and stress in the gym. We want to feel that, and you hear a lot of people in life don't want to feel that, shy away from that, don't want to get uncomfortable, right? We live for that, in that competitive nature. We live for that. So
yeah,
going from basketball, volleyball to this sport, like for me, it was. It's somebody said this about me once. They're like, watching you fight and watching you train is like life. How they put it, your life in a living art form.
Mm.
And I'm 100%. It's how you look at it. Again, what's your mindset?
Being that you guys, you deal with a lot of fighters, but you also deal with a lot of tactical athletes and stuff. Have you seen any like debates go down between those populations, like who's tougher, or do they ever spar with each other by chance, or or are they kind of separate and like respectful of each other?
I mean, they're not usually training at the same times, but no, it definitely. And if any of them cross paths, it's all respect, and it's just
Okay.
At the gym, it's just a family. It's a community. It's you walk in there at any given time, and you can have, celebrity, UFC fighter, SWAT, Gen Pop. It doesn't matter. Once you walk in there, everybody's on the same grounds, and everybody's yelling, screaming for everybody else just to level up.
Okay.
It really is. It's an unbelievable. It's an energy and situation. Nothing I've ever been like can simulate, or no place I've ever been at can actually simulate what goes on there, and just just the camaraderie, man. So no, everybody's for everybody. There's definitely the joking around, the banter, of course. Has to be. Most of it comes from Phil.
Really? Oh, he's trying to do like a Louis and incite the competition. Oh, he comes from you?
Always. Doesn't matter. Does not matter. It's the point on me. Anything that he can pick on me for, he's like my brother. I'm like, stop. That's just the way that it is. You said sparring, so I don't want to discount what you said. Sparring verbally, we don't have a ring, so we just do the strength conditioning, right?
Okay.
But we don't have that yet. What goes on in the future? I don't know. I mean, we did, in the facility prior, we had a boxing ring. In there we had the boxing connected, but now we have two different facilities. So, right where we are right now, no, it's just strength conditioning. Their SAQ, performance, movement, mobility. We're kind of renovating the space right now. We're going to be putting some bags up into one of the other rooms and changing some stuff around. So we'll have the bags. But outside of that, no. But we have, right across the street is Killcliff, formerly Sanford MMA.
Okay.
So those guys, they just go across the street and boom, take care of their business there. But it's surrounded. It's South Florida. It's just a hotbed for combat sports. Killcliff is across the street from us, and then we have down the block the other way is American Combat Gym. There's MMA Master Sports, Fight Sports is down the block the other way. Then a couple miles down the road, you got American Top Team in Coconut Creek. So it's just
wow, I didn't know you guys had all that down there.
crowd check, like the most elite and the largest sheriff's department in the world. And they're actually developing a monster strength conditioning facility. I don't remember the square footage. It's something insane, but you know, it's just a habit. We're talking about combat and tactical athletes and just performance. That's a real reason why I moved down here originally from New York, just because I wanted to keep leveling up my game in terms of education, just being around the best. You know, I coming up early, I started studying. I was 17. I got into the industry.
That's what I was going to ask you next. How'd you get started with strength conditioning? So yeah, please.
You know, like that's one of the things that really, that's one of the things besides me being just an athlete in general that saved me and my life and the injuries that I sustained from being worse in the car accident. Because my senior year of high school, they started a new program. Again, I believe, and I've been shown this to be true, everything happens for you in life. And this program that they started, instead of, if your grades were good enough, instead of going to classes your senior year, your third and fourth quarters, you would be able to go out and get an internship. So
Oh, wow.
that, and, you know, been an athlete my whole life. So I always knew I wanted to get involved in some direction. I wasn't sure, you know, and I was still in high school, so I didn't really know, you know, the circumstances behind certain positions and what was necessary. I was like, all right, physical therapy. I was like, being a coach. You know, I wasn't sure, but I had a friend of mine's mother that worked at a gym, and there's also a physical therapy facility linked in with them, and I ended up doing the internship there, and I just was an absolute sponge. Like, if I wasn't at practice, I was there all morning. I was there afternoons, so I could be there on the weekends, and just following, you know, the coaches, trainers around, following the physical therapy office. It just took everything fucking in and started applying. Yeah, that's how, I mean, that's originally how I got involved into the industry. Got my first, I think ACE it was like my first certification. I got like 7. No, but then just, you know, grew from there, or just started research and development, right? And just, you know, find, you know, who do I need to follow? And I got introduced to Juan Carlos Santana, very, maybe within that year, 18, 19 years old, and started following him. And when he would come to New York or New Jersey, Connecticut, you know, I would go listening to him speak, and we got really close. And when I had my first world title fight, he reached out to me and he was like, come down to performance. I want to work with you. He's like, we'll put your program together and, you know, move forward from there. And I was like, cool. All right, bet. So I've come down to IHP, stay down here for a couple of days. We'd put the programming together, go back, implement it, you know, tweak whatever I needed to, you know, or felt that I needed to add in or, you know, modulate. And then he ended up, as my fights started growing, we got closer. He offered me a position down at IHP. At the time, I turned it down the first time because I had too much that I was still wanting to do in New York and wanting to do within boxing, and didn't feel the right time. And then I went back to him. I think I was doing he was doing strength conditioning, some strength conditioning certification course, and for MMA, for MMA fighters. And I was doing one of them. I flew down to take it with him, and I talked to him again. And I was like, "Listen," I said, "You know, you still interested in having me come down?" He's like, "Absolutely." And I was like, "All right," and moved down here. And that was about 9 years ago. I worked alongside him for about 4 years. I had to go back to New York. My mom, I didn't know at the time, something else had brought me back to New York that I needed to handle. And my mom ended up getting diagnosed with ovarian cancer, stage 4 ovarian cancer. So I realized that's why I was brought back to New York. And all I was going through, I was in a relationship, and I didn't want to leave Florida, but my ex at the time was going through some family stuff, and she felt she needed to be back home. So, you know, always do the right thing. And I was like, all right. We ended up breaking up shortly after that. But the whole thing was because my mom, and I know that's why I got drawn back there. Like I said, everything happens for a reason, right? So stayed with her and helping her to battle. And about 4 years, going on about 4 years now, she passed. So then after
sorry about that.
I look at it like this. She was too big to be down here. And she really was. She was just too course, like she got pulled up, and that's the way that
Mm.
needed her there.
I like that mindset. I've never heard somebody say that. Yeah, I like the way that you say that. Yeah.
Is why brother, total badass, totally about living life and being your dreams. Like from we're little kids, tells us, we're leaders, we're out there to do great things. Like just unbelievable. And you never realize because your parents like how strong they are. And it's just like I saw it in that moment. And then it brought me back to stuff growing up. I was like, wow, like she's a fucking beast. And it's just like she was too big to be down here. Like he needed that angel up there. So, but I always knew, and I'm sorry, sidebar. So I'll see stuff though. Like she'll, like on my birthday, or no, I'm sorry, it wasn't my birthday. It was her birthday, which was just past April 6th. And I'm driving on the highway and all of a sudden the school bus passes by me with my birth date on it, which is 8277. I've never seen a school with my birthday on it in my life. Like, all right, Mom, I see. Got you. But yeah, I always knew that I was gonna be back here. Like living here was my dream. Like I said, going back, I wanted to level my game up because I felt like I wasn't growing any further in New York. People were reaching. I was constantly giving education to others and mentoring other, coaches in the industry, and which is great. Like I love that. I'm all about giving. Like that's my entire life. But I needed to be replenished, and I needed to grow, and I needed to be. I wanted to learn more, and for me. Boxing, I stayed in New York because of my boxing career. My other side of my career or my life, being a strength coach, my development or what I want to really specialize in was with combat population and with tactical population, which is what I've always been drawn to. And I knew that both hotbeds were here, along with some of the biggest names in the industry. So knew I needed to come back here, and it's just, it's paradise. I'm blessed every day I wake up. I'm absolutely blessed. Come do what I had to do, and then said, long story short, I moved back again, and ran into a good friend of mine that actually I was boxing with in New York, Maureen Shea, who is a 2-time world champion, and I didn't even know she was down here. I actually walked to the boxing gym, just networking and showing face and trying to build my name, and somebody was like, "Oh, your story sounds really familiar," and they start describing this other individual, and I looked at. I was like, "Is her name Maureen Shea?" She's like, "Yeah." I was like, "Holy shit," because we hadn't seen each other in years, and I thought she was in California still. So back that night, surprised her. We hug it out and we start talking, and she starts telling me about Phil, and now everything comes full circle. So here we are.
And when you started working for him versus now, what are the things that you learned, changed, and all that?
It's constantly growing. It's every year. Even there's programs that I look at I might have done 6 months ago, and I'm like, man, why did I do that? Like that's kind of constantly evolve. You're constantly growing. It's research and development every day. And I'm just trying to grab and get as many tools in my toolbox to be able to, auto-regulate in certain situations, undrop of a dime, and just integrate methodologies and different hybrid formats, because you're dealing with a lot, especially with athletes, who's coming in injured, who's coming in, they're already overtraining what they're doing outside. Like there's so many different elements you have to work with, and on any given day, and even like it's auto-regulation every single day. That's why a lot of times I'm not even programming. I'm going, I know in my head, I know where they're at. I'll just on the board that day, and keep it simple. Hybriding between, a lot with Phil, it's condensed conjugate and working through West Side modalities, but integrating that, working with triphasic modalities, working integration of unconventional training methodologies from one-arm lifts, which come over very useful in terms, especially tactical and grappling, right? And hybrid formats of that to integrating with clubs, with mace, with kettlebells, with animal flow, keeping the mobility and the strength components up, being able to create elements of force through varying force vectors, right? Especially working with an element where you're working with a mace, you're working with steel clubs. Those elements are constantly trying to pull away from you. So you maintain the control of it, maintain the composure. Again, and even the energy systems you work through transferable over to what you're doing in combat. I give you to, flow sequence with a mace as your active recovery that day, your light day, as opposed to going and running outside. The impact on the body, your body's needs, where I'm moving with the mace or with clubs, it's more simulating of what I'm going to do on a lighter scale or on a more
Right.
intense scale in the ring and in combat, right? So it's just constantly growing and adapting on those levels and just tweaking things and pushing the dial, pushing the needle up a little bit, and then understanding when to take it down, just understanding more than anything the athlete that you're working with, you know, in their bodies, and also what pushes them, what triggers them, what they like to do, maybe to integrate that into the program format as well. But I mean, it's, you know, to anybody across the board, just constantly research development, go out there and play outside of the lines, you know, and as long as it makes sense to you and you're seeing a positive result from it, response from it, you know, run and gun with it. And I'll do that stuff for myself too. Anything that I'm going to provide to one of my athletes, I'm going to play with on my own and see how am I feeling? How can I adjust this or tweak this, you know? But I mean, that's it, just to anybody out there, like just constantly just, you don't, it's the more that I know, the more I'm like, shit, I don't know shit, you know, because you're just like, wow, you know?
Training the boxers versus the MMA guys, you know, it's always depends, you know, on the athlete and what that athlete needs. But what do you see are some major differences that generally happen when you're programming and training the boxers versus the MMA guys or jiu-jitsu, you know, whoever you're working with?
Jiu-jitsu is probably those
that
guys.
One I'm saying would be strange. You know, like
No, they're easy to program, but their adaptive response to even just movement is so, like, they just have a hard time understanding movement. It's hard to explain. Even warming up, doing some low level plyos or, you know, some low level dynamic work, and I don't know what it is, but even at basic, right? We'll keep it real simple. Let's go a high knee run. Their knees are going out here, their arms going out. Just their body, that's what it is. So their body awareness, whatever reason that I've found, their body awareness is just off in space. Like they don't just because they haven't really, the weight room is something that has been a no-no for a lot of, you know, old school jiu-jitsu artists. So just stay here. But when they do get into the programming, I mean, the output that they have just from, again, right, what's the king of all strength, being able to control your own body weight. And these guys they start going, man, you see weight flying, and it's mind-blowing, like, holy shit. But them getting just the ideals of basic concepts of movement and awareness of their body with the ball, just body weight alone on the floor doing some stuff, that's probably the biggest difference that I've seen. I mean, boxers and MMA, really there hasn't that I can really put my finger on of that difference between either one of them. Pretty much work with them in the same more dynamic power, probably for the MMA guys were a little bit more dynamic, explosive in their response rate, and maybe better overall conditioning, lactic acid threshold on some of the boxers in certain situations, I'd say, but very close. I mean, really close. Tactical athletes, that's where I see the biggest drop. Getting these guys going good, like lactic acid thresholds, anaerobic conditioning. But again, even them, some with awareness underneath the bar, and just control their body in space. See a drop off for some of these guys.
I would imagine the training of the lower body is going to be different too between the MMA and boxing. Like, is there more just an emphasis on it with the MMA guys, or is it more like we're going to work more on your explosive with the MMA versus strength for the boxing guys? You know, how's that?
No, you know, keep it. I mean, we do keep it pretty regulated across the board in terms of how we're doing that. Utilizing, you know, in a condensed conjugate and sticking around those 3 major lifts, and then just working. I mean, really, that would come down to, because they're gonna hit a squat variance, they're gonna hit a push variance, they're gonna hit a pull variance, and then really just bring it down to the accessories that they would need offsetting that. And then if we need a little bit more, you know, hypertrophy off that base, and really in the phase of training, gonna be working through with them, or how close to their fight that they are as well. Going to off camp, I do, you know, some more hypertrophy based actions with them, But in terms of the explosive nature and hitting, any speed work, any dynamics, we pretty much across the board. Training's pretty consistent with accommodating resistance and throwing some bands on there, getting some speed work and throwing the chains on. It's pretty consistent across the board in how we answer them. Like I said, again, if somebody for whatever reason, whether it's an issue with them, an injury with them, whether they're coming, might be coming out of one camp and the fight fell through, or going into another, where we'll play around with, explosive nature and dynamics, but across the board, it's pretty much the same.
How do you guys, because I'm sure there's a lot of guys that like you said, in the populations among many sports, it's still relatively new to put an emphasis on what you actually do in the weight room at all. How do you guys train the abs, obliques, and I would say even the lower back for these guys? Is there a lot of brace work? Is there a lot of the crunching? Or is there a lot of the, static? How do you guys work that? Because I know you got to actually get hit. So you got to be good at being able to take it, but how do you guys do that?
So you get onto the bar. All right, we're going to squat. First thing we do, spread the floor, brace the core of your body, right? Maintain that core brace is essential for any of your lifts. So they're going to get it from there. They're going to deadlift, they're going to press, they're going to drive out their legs. They're going to understand that before we do that, we take them through a whole series on the floor where we're just prepping them, right, with floor work and how to sustain that brace and that contraction. Breathing response as well, and diaphragmatic breathing, them understanding that, and then being able to maintain that brace and that control. Outside of that, when we go into any of their repetition method work, so we might have them go on to a reverse hypers and have them do sets of 15 to 25 reps, up to 100 reps in a session, broken down into sets of what they can handle, and building up their leg raises, any isometric holds that we'll do, whether it be with the medicine ball or us holding tension upon them, so that they're understanding how to get that static state and retain tension throughout that entire movement. At the end, we do a lot of repetition work for core, for extremities, for the smaller muscle groups, even for grip work that we'll utilize with them. Grip, neck, lower back, and abdominal wall, more oblique rotational aspects.
Where is isometrics and where is the level of importance between those three? Like jiu-jitsu, MMA, boxing.
I think definitely, with my BJJ guys, it's probably most prevalent in there because of that hold and then the lactic acid and then trying to build up and then have to be dynamic out of that. So we'll do isometric work in terms of neck work, grip work with them. Definitely more than we'll do with boxing. I think for MMA, we'll do a lot of neck and a lot of isos to maintain that contraction of them being able to set lactic acid, being able to come out of that with the dynamic response of being able to move. So that's probably the hardest part where they get that fatigue down.
As far as the neck training, which is more important, the strength or the size of the neck to not get choked out? I always wonder that.
That's good. It go back to your strength.
Okay.
At that point, it also goes to your technique and your resolve. If you talk to Warcore, if you talk to Emiliano about it, he's in there. He's doing neck work for half an hour. I got one of the biggest necks I've ever seen. So, but at the end of the day, it definitely has to go with your strength. 100. And you talk about size. The size definitely say that you have a stronger neck, not necessarily so. So you talk about of the action, strength, the muscles around it. They'll go into that technical work, but that's it's come from a lot of repetition method, a lot of isometric holds, anything else. I would really preface that with a lot of our athletes when they're towards the end of their session.
Do you guys have, between those three, do they do jumps, and where's the level of importance on it? And do you guys do more for sets of total of 40 like the traditional, like a lot of conjugate guys, or do you do for max ever? Do you go for records and stuff like that?
No, we're not really pushing for records or for max ever, but we are doing that in the beginning of their session. So we'll work through some mobility work, blueprint, basic blueprint. We'll go through some mobility work, run through some different cars, neck, ankle, whatever the body needs that day, whatever we're going to focus on. Go through floor work, some dynamic movement prep, and then, taking some dynamics and then going into whether we're going to target upper, lower, or where they are in their programming phase, med ball throws, or box jumps, depth jump variations. We'll usually go 5 sets, 5 reps. Sometimes we start getting a little more dynamic, or pulling like 2 or 3 jumps into explosive move in. We may go sets of 3, 5 sets of 3, 3 sets of 3. But all the jumps and everything that we'll do at the beginning of their session. And then integrate if we go into like a triphasic format. We're going to a French contrast format. Then we'll integrate obviously the jumps into that, getting some dynamic. But teaching them, primarily working through some low level plyometrics, building up also tendon strength, soft tissue strength, as well as then teaching them how to actually land and the efficiency of their landing mechanics, being able to load to become explosive, and then being able to not just absorb force down the road, becoming more dynamic and be able to accumulate in that force to more plyometric actions off of that. But we definitely teach them or spend a lot of time on learning how to actually load to create that force first, and then being able to explode off it. And like I said, then becoming more accumulative of those force patterns, a lot of plyometric work.
How does training look like for these guys when they're in their off season versus fight camp? Like, does the number of days change, or the intensity, or the volume, or everything?
Again, it goes back to what what they need or what we're looking at down in the future. But the days, they're in there 2 days, 3 days out of the week. We like keeping them in for 3 days. Their off season, it's going back to a lot of times it might be some basic GPP, sled marches, and we might throw into some animal flow and some movement prep with that too, or some movement work with that too, whether it be with the mace, with the clubs, and then just building up stabilization, building up core integrity, whatever their body needs that we see is, they're compensating for, compensatory factors they're dealing with, is going to be the basis of what we're going to work on. Then do they need a little more strength? Do they need more size? Getting some hypertrophy, loading their body a little bit more intently, and then taking them back through that camp and find out. A lot of these guys, but that's also why, we'll utilize the conjugate style, because these guys can jump in and out. Fights fall through, they get called short notice. You never, talk about Emiliano. We just had him go up to, I think he was upstate in Florida. Had one fight fall through. This is his second camp, went up to go fight, gets there, fights off by the time he gets there. So now he comes back in. It's just like you're dealing with all these circumstances all the time. So to keep in that conjugate style format, it just makes sense. But if we know somebody's off for a while, a lot of times bring back to just some GPP and some movement base. I said, whether it be sleds, belt marching, rolling around with mace or the clubs.
And do you guys do some form of conditioning work every workout, or do you keep it to one of the lower body days and then one of the upper body days? Or, how do you guys go about that?
What do you mean in conditioning? In what sense?
So how many days a week are they going to get in the ATP and march for time, or spar while they're in there? Or, are they going to do their longer sled trips just one day in the week? Are they doing something every single day?
If they're off camp, they might go do sled 2 days out of the week. Variation might have them on the belt march, and maybe doing like K carry or different carries down, throw them onto the rower. But usually it's a lower body day. We might go, lower body max effort, and then a dynamic lift on upper body. Switch it out. If it's a Monday, Wednesday, Friday, and then Friday be all just dynamic work. It out that way. It's all really variable. It really is based on what they need. But a lot of times we go into like condensed conjugate style, it's going to be a lower body max effort, upper body dynamic, upper body max effort, lower body dynamic, and then it'll be a full dynamic day on there Friday, keep it fast.
And then, what do you guys kind of base their condition off of? Is it depending on like the rounds that they fight and the length of those rounds? Do you guys do, more like let's say if their rounds of fights are 5 minutes, they're going to do sets of 2 to 3, and how many times they can repeat that at an 80% pace, or are they doing full 5 minutes each time to mimic that same exact situation?
No, we won't take them really into doing that 5 minutes training towards till their last maybe 2 weeks of training, maybe the third week, where we may throw in like a fight circuit for them. So as I speak for myself, I like playing around with doing French press and doing formats of that. And then I see like one of my boxers right now, she just had a fight fall through. We went right up to that date of the fight in camp, and right at the last second, fight fell through, and she got offered another fight right after that. So we're taking her to the camp again. So I took her into French consciousness last week, the chat before. We're just doing some fight circuits and letting her coast, and I'm just watching her body just explode. I mean, she's faster than I've ever seen her, more explosive than I've ever seen her. So you got to really understand the fighter and what they need in that point in time, what their body's done to that date. You know, utilizing a fight circuit, we'll go into hitting maybe 3 5-minute rounds, or decide to fight 5-minute rounds with components at 30 seconds and 15 seconds in an action that really simulates the forces, the impact that they're going to face, whether in the ring or in the cage or on the mats. Give them that minute recovery, hit it again. And I'll do that with my boxers. Even though females, they'll fight 2 minutes. I usually just put together a 3-minute fight circuit and bring them to intensities that they are never going to face in the ring. It's going to be a higher intensity when they really overpeak them, overstretch them. But to make them know in the ring when they are feeling that, and they are feeling that adrenaline, they're good. They got it.
Panicking, right? Staying calm.
Yeah. In terms of you know, the strength overall, it's you know, we're doing strength work. We're working in, you know, we'll go 3 sets of 5, break down to 5 sets of 3, and then go to a max single or max double. A lot of times it'd be more of a max double, especially with our MMA guys. A lot of stuff they're dealing with injury wise. Don't want to overreach them on that max effort for the single. But again, you know, it varies. And then throwing in, getting a little more dynamic. So with the bands, throwing in, getting the chains, get a little more explosive off the ground. But those sets again, we go dynamic, go to, you know, 8 sets of 3 and 10 sets of 1 leading up, and get them as explosive as we can. Get the velocity out of them that we need. And looking at measuring bar speed. So a lot of times we put like the gym wear on and just match, instead of looking at the output of what they're lifting. How fast are they moving that weight? How explosive are we getting? Is that time going down? You know, we'll do the same thing on the sprints. We have them on. We're doing an alactic, and that's what we'll do at the end of their sessions too, depending again what we need off of them. And we'll do testing in the beginning with Jose Flex, who does a lot of the testing on these guys in terms of their response cardiovascularly, and where their body is utilizing or depriving the system, where oxygen is being depleted, where they're what's the word I want to use? I'm having a brain fart. Well, basically how their body's responding in terms of their cardiovascular response. So put them on, they'll do like it's a basic it's a little more in depth than a map test, and find out where their rates are in terms of their oxygen intake, oxygen utilization. From there, we'll figure out what they actually need in terms of the components in ending their sessions, where they're going to go alactic, we're going to go lactic. A lot of times leading up to the fights, we're going to go into 6-second intervals with a full minute. So at 6 seconds, your body's going to be able to recruit maximal effort and starts to drop off after that. So we'll give them a 6-second at the end, we'll give them minutes to recover and hit them again, have 6 sets of 6. We'll have them go on maybe the prowler, do some prowler sprints, 10 seconds. Now, if you notice that their time from a 10-yard mark is dropping, we give them a little more recovery, be able to have their body recover and get the or play around with the timing of what they're actually pushing for. So we're constantly monitoring where their efficiency is and where their drop-off times are, and if they're getting better or if we're just depleting them more. But, you know, and a lot of times, again, the guys come in from wrestling all morning across the street, and their body's already feeling that fatigue. So it's those times we might just throw them onto the assault bike and have them go, okay, you know what, it's 10 minutes, just relax and let your body flow out.
For the max effort work, sub kind of question, does it change through fight camp and off season? But also, you know, what does that look like? Are they going for a record, or is it like 100%, 90% for that day?
For max effort, I mean, they're always going to try to hit their PRs. They said there'll be like So
Okay.
if we're looking at that domain, we'll hit them out with 3 sets of 5. We'll fall them out next week. We'll take it up. And we'll go in 5 sets on 3. And then that third week out, we'll bring them in. Okay, you're going to hit your max. This is what your PR was last time. Yeah, we're going to look for them to break their PR. But you know, sometimes.
So kind of like a 5-3-1 kind of.
What was that on their max?
Yeah, it's kind of like a 5.
Build up. Yeah, we'll do some build. Let them feel it, and then see how they're feeling. And sometimes, like I said, we'll auto regulate. We might just hit it as a double. But a lot of times too, we're working in those max effort realms. Well, we might say, you know, listen, our 5 sets of 3, I want you to hit at about your 80%, your 90%.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying? You're going to go into sets of 5, or I want you to sit right at 75%. You know, or if we want to go into more strength speed, work on that underneath that bar. You know, it just, again, it varies on what we need from them, what their body needs, what their performance rates saying that they need. But getting closer to that fight, now we're going to start to push them. We're going to start to push them on the bar. But that's, you know, getting close to that fight. We're taking their 80%, their 75%, and we might be going, you know, overcoming isometrics on that bar, and taking it into a French contrast and pushing against. Where I might have, especially with my BJJ guys, I'll have them take for the deadlift, hold, take it out, hold at about a quarter range up, and then they'll go into that isometric against that bar on that pin, hold at that mid, back down, and then return, because that's where their body is really going to be facing that tension when they get into the grappling effects. It's not just up. Now we're, again, to the MMA guys, the UFC, it's going to be more that dynamic, but they're going to have to hold back. BJJ, so in my head, that's how I try to formulate who I'm working with and how I'm going to tweak those systems to get the demand and energy response that I need off of their body that is going to bring them closer to peaking for that event. You know, boxing, again, a little bit more into the dynamic range of the movements, and throws, you know, from landmine throws, mid-ball throws, variations like that. Crowley pushing it, but the BJJ guys working in those domains within that isometric, overcoming isometric response thing is very important. This is very important. They've all loved. They felt that great carryover in terms of utilizing that format. I mean, we'll put that contrast format into doing clusters. We might put 4 times through, no weight on the bar, just pulling over, and then going right into peaking them into a throw, you know, and going into some potentiation work. So we go into potentiation clusters where we're getting that quick response, and that's especially for, we have a fighter that's coming in that we might not have had so much time with, and some of these guys haven't had any off game. I got 6 weeks for a fight. Can you get me ready? Okay. They have no time in the gym. They never really, so we'll put them into, you know, clusters with the bar, pulling into the pins, some basic med ball throws, a couple cycles through, and peak them that way and get the response that we need to off their body and create that potentiation and that repeated explosiveness, repeated sprintability that we need within the constraints of the time that we have. And then can't transfer over into the off camp. On camp, we're going to work in their biases, off camp going against their biases to bring them back to what they need to in the response that we can now push the needle on when they get back into in camp.
How much straight bar work versus specialty bar work do you guys use for the 3 main lifts? And do you have a rule with that where it's like, oh, they have no injuries, okay, we'll use more straight bar? Or if it's closer to fight camp, you know, maybe that's where we're using trap bar, football bar, or is it kind of everybody's specialty bar?
No, we constantly are varying it.
Okay.
I stay with the same. I said a lot of times we like to work within phases of 4 weeks. So it's a 3-week we're on, and then that 4th we're going to deload them.
Okay.
I mean, for me, and I'm very much about numbers in terms of marking and monitoring where my guys are. So I'm going to stay outside of circumstances. I'm going to try to stay with the same format. If I'm going to use, you know, they're going to go a traditional deadlift, they're going to stay in that for the next 3 weeks. I'm going to mark it off of that, you know, and then I'll transfer them over into, maybe they go sumo, maybe they go trap bar. So we play with that, but it's always changed up because we never want to allow their bodies to accommodate to any circumstance. You know, but with mobility, you know, you're saying the SSP bar, for a lot of the guys, you know, they don't have the shoulder mobility.
Right, yeah.
In the Duffalo bar, or spider bar, you know, it's better for these guys just because of their shoulders and how they're dealing with what they can hold. The guys, you know, even, you know, deadlifts outside of the trap bar, they don't have the positioning. So we'll stay with that trap bar, just vary how we're utilizing it from split stance or even playing a lot. I mean, I love working with the landmine and just different configurations with that. Just because line of force and driving forward, being able to create power in a forward direction, forward intention. That's the entire game in combat. So I will switch off and integrate that a majority of the times, especially for the guys that might not be able to deadlift or squat or need that change, and having that split stance format onto with the landmine, which allows again that forward intention, which is you basically shooting in for your shot or your takedown. So I'm a big fan of using that for whether it be my strength or max up work with a lot of my fighters.
But now you spoke on the squat and the deadlift. What about the bench?
Oh, good question. So yeah, we'll bench them a lot of times. We'll utilize whether it bench, usually a close grip. We'll play around. We'll play around sometimes with the 3 different grips off that bench. But using a floor press, we'll utilize as well. Get them comfortable with the floor press, and then landmine presses off of that. But yeah, it's usually a bench, football bar press, straight bench, close grip, or a floor.
And then besides the landmine, do you guys do normal barbell overhead work, like incline or standing, or push presses?
Overhead push press. I would say overall minimal. We will do a Z press.
Okay, right, yeah.
Because so many of the fighters have so many issues when it comes to shoulders, so a lot of push press and overhead work that utilize outside of the landmine, which is not really traditionally, overhead, but we'll utilize with the kettlebell or with the dumbbells. Okay. Yeah. A majority of the work will use kettlebell and dumbbells just for that reason. Not something that's mandatory for them, and conserve their shoulders, their neck, their traps, where they're getting a lot of tension already. And just to risk injury off that or stress off of that doesn't make. So yeah, our major, like I said, this will be SSB. We'll use box squat a lot. Box squat, bar deadlift, bench, close bench or football bench, floor press. What did I say? Deadlift, trap bar, sumo deadlift, traditional trap.
And then you. Oh, sorry. Go ahead. You go.
Off of that, what they need is gonna build on those main lifts that we're utilizing. That's how they gain their accessories. Outside of any other circumstances, like I said, if they're off camp or we want to go after some of their biases, or we might throw in, some FRC work or some mobility, some animal flow to get something out of them that their body is not getting in their main lifts.
Now, like you said, like you mentioned FRC, and I know you said in the beginning that you do cars and part of that warm up. Who does and where is it the pail and rails portion?
That would be more. I don't have enough background, so I don't play around with pails and rails so much.
Okay.
But Phil will utilize that more into what I've seen him doing to the end of the session.
Okay.
But I haven't even. I haven't even seen him utilizing it in a while, to tell you the truth. In a while. And I haven't utilized it enough where if I don't have enough in it, so many other avenues that I'm playing with, I won't integrate it until I'm 100% ability of it. But I'll stay more with, FRC, a lot of just dynamic, full body movements off of cars, some floor work, and mobility work that I'll utilize just because I specialize with a lot of the club work and mace work, and I'll utilize that for that, or what I need out of the athletes.
And how have you guys gone about coordinating the training with their skill coaches?
That's up to, the individual and whoever is working, with them. I'm sure, Phil talks to whoever he needs to talk to, or to the athletes. I always, whoever I'm working with, say, and it's, Jason Strout, who's with Kill Cliff. We train Jason. Jason's in there all the time, and Jason's with some of the fighters. So it's very open, Mm-hmm. We're in contact. I go to Kill Cliff. I'm across the street a lot just to check on the guys and see what's going on, just to connect. But I'm always one to say, listen, whatever your coach they want to talk to me about, give them my contact information. Anybody ever has any questions, because for me, I've seen so much nonsense going that never needs to and never should go on between coaches because of lack of communication, right, or egos. Just not being educated in a system, or old school methodology. I mean, I had to deal with it in boxing myself, where I had issues with some boxing coaches that I was working with because they didn't want me doing A, B, and C, but because they didn't understand what they were telling me. So beyond the scope of even reason, for performance gains, is basically completely debilitating to what you need, especially as a fighter. So I'm very much, listen, any of your coaches have questions, please let them, reach out to me. If they want me to come in, and I try to do this too. I'll always try to get to any of the sessions that I can get to anybody that I'm working with outside the gym, just see how they're going, how they're moving, what do they need? Ask the coach, what do they need? You seeing this good? Is this improving? What are they lacking? So, I mean, communication is always open, but that's huge. That's huge. It has to be. It has to be. If there's no communication, there's breaks in communication with fighters and the athletes. That's where there's a trickle down effect, and it just can disrupt so many things.
Before you go, last thing, tell me a little bit more about your organization that you mentioned in the beginning. Since we went over training so much.
My brand. So my brand, RYSE, basically. I tell you what it stands for: realize your strength every day, raise your standards every day, and reignite your soul every day. And basically, it's me in what I do. It's bringing the mental, the emotional, the physical together, which is the basis of all success, having the right mindset. So I'm not just working with my athlete in terms of the physical, I'm getting into their head. I'm getting into them at the same, getting into psyche. I will meet with them outside of that and do some talks and some mindset sessions if they need be, or on the phone, or getting ready for a fight, or getting ready to step on the stage with one of my entertainers. I usually, before any of his performances, I'm on the phone with him. We'll do some flow work, some movement work before he gets on stage, and I get into his head a little bit. So it's really the encompass of that, and being able to inspire yourself to higher levels, especially things that I've gone through in my life. I believe that was for a reason, because if you don't have that in the past and you haven't done things, and there's more to my story, if you haven't gone through things in your life, then how can you truly speak on it and empower somebody else to go through it if you don't have the full understanding of it? So you go through what I've gone through in my life in many different circumstances, being able to bring that to the forefront, and especially after things that I've done, accomplishing the things that I've been blessed to accomplish, still continue to grow to accomplish other things, can be, listen, I'm living proof this is in existence. And it also allows me to open doors to getting out there, doing more speaking engagements, but leaving behind something that is more than just what I've done in my life here, but more of a legacy and how I've served and built out to others. So I want to create RYSE apparel. That's going to be the next step on the platform, that will have things like blessed, chosen, warrior, taglines like I say, train with efficiency and effectiveness in order to execute with excellence and exceed all expectations, no excuses. So quotes like that will really start to move people into the formats of what they want to do, because there's so much negativity and there's so much, people get on top of each other and noise that you can get into your head. The combat world, I want to be able to diminish all that as much as possible and say, listen, you can actually do anything that you want to do in this life, should you have the power within yourself, because it's a choice. And putting yourself, we say in training a lot, whether, in strength and in combat, position before transition was putting yourself in the right positions in life, having that right foundation in order to create the transition that you want to make and the transformation that you want to make. And that positioning is, again, it's all about life and training being the same. Training is from internal. If your core integrity is off, your extremities, the force that you're going to create is going to be off. Kinetic chain is off, you have zero force production. So internal to external, same thing in life. Internal to external, same thing being in the cage, being in the ring, being on the streets and dealing in the tactical element. Internal is off, your external, your results, your resolve is going to be off, and your ability to stay calm within the chaos and the confusion surrounding you, you're not going to have that clarity, because you have that clarity within the silence of yourself. So these are all the things that RYSE a platform as a brand encompass. And I want to start getting more. I did a couple and I kind of got away from it because I got busy with other things, but making it a point to putting out more videos and speaking and mindset, and being able to get out there and do more speaking engagements as well as seminars. I'll combine the mental aspects of training along with modalities, whether it's going over, conjugate or going over triphasic modalities or unconventional training, and being able to really put it together, because that's where that fight, like I said, I'm not a boxer, I'm a fighter mentality comes from. That warrior mentality comes from, that champion mentality comes from, to be able to keep, okay, adversity comes, good, keep bringing it on, because the greatness that's within you can only be chiseled out like the diamond from the pressure that you're dealt with. It's RYSE is encompassing of all of that. And again, it's me and Phil, we kind of went like this because it's like he's from the same psyche and mindset, and the two of us just working together and collaborating together. And he knew, I talked about RYSE. RYSE is something that was it came to me when I was about 25 years old, and I just never got the actual LLC on it. It's just been something I've been, creating and looking to build, and just continue to develop and see what else was going to come from it before I started to really put it out, and what I wanted to do with it. And, we talked about, he's like right on board. He's like, yeah, it's like, I see the whole thing. He's like, we could even collaborate. And it's just like, where, you hear Phil talk, and a lot of things that he speaks on, a lot of things that I speak on, we're very much the same. So it's like, and he said it to me the other day. He's like, he's like, you and me were supposed to be finding each other. He goes, we're supposed, what did he say? It's like, as if we were looking for each other. You're the heart and I'm the soul. We were supposed to look to each other, and we finally connected. And it's just like, again, everything happens for a reason. So hopefully it's like that whole collaboration where, he's definitely more the strength, and I'm almost more of like the performance and the strength hybrid. And, it's kind of mesh and come together. It's a beautiful thing. So hopefully we can build what we're building and move forward.
Well, I don't know if he told you this, or that he's speaking at my seminar that's going to be on in June 17th and 18th. And you say you want to do more speaking, you should just tag along with him. Just roll up.
Yeah, I'll definitely bring it up to him. You should tell. You know what? You hit him up.
I got you.
You gotta come.
Don't tell him. You got to bring your girl now. Tell him, I'm gonna send a picture of me like this. I'm like, soul and heart. Come on, bring it together. You spoke a little bit on this already, but just tell me about your goals in the future. What you're trying to bring to the forefront.
Yeah. It's unending. It keeps growing. As I keep growing and evolving, on top of what, like the pinnacle that, like I said, like I've known from when I was a kid was, inspire, empower, and impact. Okay, well, how am I going to do that? My life's kind of brought me into that way. It's now, because I always, through my career, I've always had, boxing, and I wasn't able to fully focus. My boxing was part of my path and my journey, 100%. And it gave me the platform to have a greater outreach. It gave me the platform to be able to have 2 documentaries done on me, a song written on me, just certain things that have happened in my life that started to create this almost a springboard effect into what I'm doing now, strength conditioning wise, where I can embed myself more into, really learning, continuing to grow, and just be fully engaged into this domain. And now that, I have that growth as well, it's building myself to build my name, the brand of RYSE, to global level of coaching, of speaking, building my name to be out there. And also, listen, I'm a female. There's not a lot of female strength conditioning coaches, performance coaches that are, and this has been this is me being uncomfortable, because I'm always and everything so humble. I'm humble to a fault, where I don't speak up, and that's a big disservice. And so I'm working to be better at that. Yeah. So being that trifecta, being a female who's in the industry and has been in the industry, and worked on the top in the industry, to being, world champion, Hall of Fame, everything I've done in boxing, to now being in the tactical element, not just working with tactical population, but serving in protection. You don't find that. And then being a speaker on top of it, that is about inspiring. Like, I know I'm like the enigma, and I believe that I am that for a reason, because I'm strong enough to carry out the responsibilities that go along with that, and be able to serve the mission that I'm meant to serve on that. So that's where we're a savage. I used to go by just inspiring, power, and practice. My taglines now is train savage, live savage, because it's being savage, going after everything that you want, everything that you believe, against all odds, against all adversities from within yourself, to achieve the greatness that you're here on this earth to actually achieve. And that's why, it's so that goal is really to be on that. And then, whatever else comes along with it, people said, oh, you need to do a book and there should be a movie on your life. And I've heard all these things for my entire life. And yeah, maybe if that comes along, that's the path. But right now, I mean, it's really building my name, my mentality and methodologies, hybrid formats, to bringing that into coaching, because I've played with them all and I see the responses, and have seen how my athletes have changed and grown from it, and just getting myself out there. But again, building RYSE to be something that's left behind, of myself that reaches even a broader surface of individuals, even the Gen Pop. I mean, there's so many Gen Pop individuals that I've worked with that, I've been very blessed to really. I've had two individuals that and they'll text me regardless. They'll text me to this day. They live in New York. One I still actually work with virtually, of how much I saved their life. And you have two individuals that got through things physically as well as mentally that you've had that impact on, that can actually say to their family that you saved their life. I mean, there's no amount of money, and there's no greater fulfillment that you can get from somebody saying that, being 100% truthful. So I mean, there's a lot that I want to take what I do to, and a lot of different individuals that I want to reach out to be able to take their lives to that next level. And getting my name and brand out there to the forefront is the best way I could do it. So it's right now it's taking the steps, doing more of the podcast, doing more interviews, getting out there, doing more speaking engagements, and being able to just bring that out there and see who else I can impact.
Well, I appreciate having you on. It was an honor. It was a lot of fun.
Oh, thank you. Yeah.
Okay, go ahead.
Oh, he said a seminar. I thought he said he had done one, but now I got that.
Yeah. Do me a favor, today or tomorrow, send me a good profile pic of you, or even like a few. I can make it like in a little what is that, collage or whatever. And if you have a really cool video too, because that just attention grabbing a little bit better.
Video, what, training
of you, like training, training people better, probably more so training people, because that's what you do. Or even if you have like a 10-second clip of like you in the ring, and then like another few seconds of you, because you do a lot of stuff, so if I can highlight it.
Yeah, I can put together I could probably put together like a reel of some. I don't have any video from fights, but and it's funny because this guy. So the fight I told you I have one of the biggest fights. It actually says the biggest fight, but it's been years, so I'm not gonna say. I'm gonna say one.
Right.
Biggest KO. And there's limited copies of this. It wasn't on TV. It's in California, and people have always been asking me for the copy. Mm-hmm. And I never gave it to anybody. I ended up giving it to this one guy that wants to do all this marketing stuff and this website for me. He screwed up the website completely. Amount of money, and he lost the DVD. So like that would have been the one I gave you. It was really this fight. We went 10 rounds. People say toe to toe. Like we literally went shot for shot for 10 rounds. And I remember it was the end of the 6th round or 7th round. I just got out of my corner and just kept saying "believe" in my head, and it loud, like it just kept going through my head. So I just kept pushing. And I mean, the 10th round, we lean on each other. Like the end of the 10th round, we just like respect. And we were just like, let's go. And at that point, respect's like the highest. And we were just like, we're gonna put a show on. And 2 seconds left, I took a step, and again, belief's just radiating through my head. A step, threw her right hand, and she just goes down. She tries to get up. She falls again with 2 seconds left. It was the most insane. Even when I talk about like I get chills, like it was the most insane moment, situation, fight. It was like being in a Rocky movie. So Oh, I fought Holly here. I fought Holly Holm twice.
Oh wow.
Was on Fox Sports. We headlined the card. It was a war, man. It was a war. And I'll tell you what, listen, I'll tell you when and she knows, I saw her, I'll tell you what happened. We fought, it was a war. I didn't have my face all banged up at the end of the fight. Her face was all banged up. That says a lot. They gave it, when I went home, my email flooded with people saying it was a draw. I was like, some people said that I won. So I always wanted that rematch. I got the rematch. It was after I had maybe 4 or 5 fights in a row fall out. One of my very good friends that I was working with, he's like, yeah, he goes, you need to do something for yourself. He's like, all you do is train clients and yourself all day long, every day. He's like, do something for yourself. He's like, you always wanted a motorcycle. Get it. And I was like, and I was just in that moment of weakness. And I was like, you know what? Yeah. I have to deal. Freak accident. So I'm sitting on at Harley, and the bike, I'm listening to the sales guy about the bike. The bike starts to tilt. And so the bike's parked on an incline. I move my foot slightly, and that's probably why it probably started to. I probably wasn't even paying attention to him because I was paying attention to my footing. I was paying attention to what he's saying. Slightly move my foot, the bike starts to tilt, and I'm like, in my head, it's like, I just bought this bike, and I'm like, I got it. Put my hand down just instinctually, had my bike jacket on, 1,200-pound bike, and my arm trying to post up. My elbow and tearing my tricep. 2 days, 3 days after that, they called for me to fight Holly in the rematch. Now, I didn't know that the injury was that bad, and it was bad, but I hadn't gone to a doctor and have health insurance. I went to a friend of mine's physical therapist. I worked with a lot of sports physical therapists, worked with a lot of collegiate athletes. He tested it out. He's like, that's not broken. And they started doing, it was, I finally was getting the MRI. My team, who wasn't really my team, they didn't really have my back. Was like, no, you're good. We'll take the fight. You're good. So but this was not right. And ended up fighting Holly with one arm. Literally, I didn't throw my right arm once in the fight. That wasn't a good situation. It was not a good. You
at least want to go there 100% or as close to as you can.
It was bad. But again, like I wasn't at a point, I probably still would, where I was gonna pull myself. I probably would now, actually, get a little smarter. But I wasn't out. I just wasn't gonna. I needed my coach to be like, no. But
for you, right? Yeah.
So we went in, and that didn't work out. But I saw Holly, so I worked with Macy Barber for her last fight in Vegas, and I was coming back up from we were doing the shakeout the morning of the fight, and I get in the elevator, and this guy, he's like, you fought Holly Holm. And just me and him in the elevator. And I looked at him and I was like, yeah. And he's like, yeah. He goes, she was talking all about you last night. He goes, she said, and I've read her say this before. She said, you're the toughest bitch that she's ever fought. You had the toughest fight she's had. And I was like, and I just laughed. And I was like, I heard her say that like every time. I was like, that's amazing. He's like, you want to go serious? Like, she's staying up in the room. And I was like, yeah. So I into the room, she sees me. It was like 2 fucking high school girls, like just if anybody ever saw that, and no. But much respect, I mean, but yeah, so I don't have that I might be able to put stuff online. But I will get some. Let me try to I'll probably put like a reel together. Maybe I could do that. Maybe some. I was getting yelled at because my volume of videos on my phone is absolutely stupid. And
you don't have folders. You got to make them separate folders.
Well, I know that. Like, why just take? Like, don't even do that. Like, you don't need all that. I'm like, yeah, but I'm gonna need it. So I went through a whole of getting in. Here we go. So let me. I have. It's stupid. I had video. I'm always like wanting to show people, and I'm like, their progression. I'm like, look, you here. This is your max
Right.
here. Or even just for physiological standpoint, like even their biases and how it's corrected and how they're overcompensating for situations, whatever. But I will. Let me see what I can pull up. I'll get that together and then get you. I don't have any headshots. I have that shot that's on my IG. That's my profile. I have to photo shoot. I haven't set it up with this guy yet, but that's something I have to do. Because situations like this, I don't have anything for. But let me put some stuff together. Just let me know if you see a video and like a press, like a shot, an image shot.
Yeah. Even, and they don't have to be like, crazy great quality. Even just any that just look just of you, and more so, it'd be better if it's more action shots of you like coaching and stuff like that. So even the quality's not as good, because people just want to see, like everybody gets a still shot, but like you coaching and a good athlete, that looks better.
I got one working with Rashad Evans, so
there you go. Yeah, I think that's pretty good. And then just a 1 to 2 sentence bio, like when you send all that, just a quick like 1 to 2 sentence bio of just like job title and maybe like certs or probably like your record, when you were a fighter and everything like that.
Let me just write this down. Forget. So we'll do a video.
Yeah.
We'll do a shot. We'll do 1 to 2 sentence bio. All right. I can do that. I'll have that for you. I will have that for you tonight or tomorrow. I got to meet with one of my guys from the organization from the program right after you. So I got a loaded day. But I will, if not tonight, definitely tomorrow I'll have it. I should have it to you. And anything else that you need, just let me know.
Cool. Thank you. Appreciate it. I look forward to meeting you soon.
I'm going to tell
him. All right.
You're in Jersey, right?
You said what?
Are you? You're in Jersey?
No, I'm in Atlanta. I'm from New York, though. Yeah. It's in New Jersey, though. The seminar. It's in at Donovan Catholic in Toms River, New Jersey.
That's what. That's where I got you. Where are you from in New York?
Right in Chelsea.
Oh yeah.
In Manhattan. Yeah. My parents, they still live up there. My grandma, like basically, like most of my mom's family is New York. Most of my dad's family is from the South. Yeah. So I lived there up until we moved. We moved down here 3.5 years ago. Me and my fiance now. So
nice.
Yeah.
So when you're gonna come through the facility?
I need to. I'm every time I talk to him or I think about Florida, that's the first stop. Number one, because it could be like a learn vacation. Because like I've never been in that area, so I'm like, we really need to do one of those. Like, especially because like I have family too that lives in Tampa. So it could be like a drive down, boom, and then just go a little further. It's like, not a little bit, but for further.
Like three hours, maybe 4 hours.
More.
Yeah.
That's not bad.
I actually have to go to Tampa to meet with somebody up there. So I have to take the drive up there. But I think it's like 3 to 4 hours. But you come down here, and like I said, you got Killcliff is right across the street from us. You got all the combat gyms you want to check out is all around us. And then just the beaches, everything. Miami's about from Deerfield, 40 minutes, maybe. 40 minutes drive.
Yeah, I definitely have to. I feel like, especially because he's going to be going all the way up to Jersey. Like, he's going to be making that case. Like, well, you got to go down here now. That's too quick.
We'll go out, take you out, do dinner, drinks. Like, it's for real.
Oh, yeah.
All right, but I'm going to give him some shit about coming out there.
Yeah.
You need from me, let me know. Everything good?
Yes. Perfect.
Money.
Yeah. You enjoy the rest of your day.
You too, love. Thank you so much for the opportunity. I appreciate it.
Oh, no, it was a pleasure.
Have a great one.
All right. You too.
Bye.